ahead and call us to order. Can I have a roll call, please?
Clifton.
Here.
Fitch. Here. Stansel. Here.
All present, can I motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Motion from Diane, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Heather, any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Pose same sign, motion carries. All right, Shelley, thanks for reworking things for us a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. So I sent you guys
You
an
wanna walk
email.
us through this?
Yep. I'll send. So the email that I sent you, there's 5 attachments there. There's 4 fund balance worksheet attachments, and then the last one is called EOs and deputies. That one is a sheet that's going to show you the trickle down. So it's going to show you the auditor's office and all the deputies and how that correlates.
So it's this one.
Yep.
Got it.
So that EOs and deputies, if you click on it, there's a heading at the top. So the first page is with full comp board recommendation. The second page is minus 25%, the third minus 50, and the last is minus 75. So you can see an overall total of what that looks like, including FICA and IBERS. So that's what that one is. The others, the fund balance worksheets, are what do the fund balances look like in correlation to doing those reductions. So the very first one is that's a full comp recommendation. So that's like what we looked at last week. So the only thing I changed in this is we talked about Brooks office supplies. We adjusted that while we were in here. And then the other thing I added was the board clerk, which I emailed all of you guys, just shy of $20,000 for that I added to your budget. So otherwise this should look fairly similar to last week's fund balance.
Did you, now our revenues caught up? The ones
So, no.
how is that gonna work?
So the revenues that are reflected on here are going to be effective as of the last day of February. That's the last time that, because we pull revenues in on our side, when we do month end. So there's been an issue with the treasurer's office and getting revenue receipts posted in a timely manner. So that's throwing off the revenue fund balances that you're seeing here. I don't know what that total dollar amount looks like because I don't know what was sitting over there. I know I had one revenue line that was short over $500 for passports. So, and I looked at secondary roads. They had revenue receipts posted on February 16th and not again after that. So could be, but theirs is going to go into Fund 20,000, so theirs is a little bit different. So this will be pretty close for us, but it could be a little bit different.
I'm sorry, when we say different, so it could be a little bit more.
The revenue could be more, yes, yes.
Yeah, because what happens if it comes back and it's a lot more?
Well, I mean, yeah,
Then what do you have to do?
nothing, no.
Just put in the
Yeah.
revenue?
It would just flow through to the next. So the nice thing is we don't have to amend for revenue. So if you're getting more money, that's great.
But when you certify your budget, the revenue would be way higher, but that's okay.
So that's what the first, if we look at the general fund, if we have them at what the comp board recommended, we would end the year with a 16.64% carryover for the general fund. For the general supplemental fund, it would be at 19.35% carryover. And then for the rural fund, which is the other fund that we look at, it would be at 19.58. So that's full recommendation. If we take off 25% of the comp board recommendation, that's $70,000, just shy of $70,000 difference. And that again includes auditor or all the elected officials and their deputies. It takes the general fund to 17.57%, the general supplemental fund 19.76%, and the rural basic to 19.82%. So you're seeing there's not a lot changing as we're moving through these. I think overall, when I got all done, either the general supplemental, one of them changed by 1% and one changed by not even 1%. The biggest change we saw was in the general basic fund. So that's with a 25% reduction. If we did a 50% reduction, we would end the year at 18.53% in the general basic, 25% 20.18% in general supplemental, and 20.05 in overall basic. And then the last one, if we did a 75% reduction of the comp board, that would end with the general at 19.49, the general supplemental at 20.59, and the rural basic at 20.29.
So the biggest difference basically is in the general basic.
Yeah, the other, because that's what, majority of our stuff comes out of.
That was the
So,
one we're looking at, is nice, a little higher.
yeah,
Maybe with the
so, if you did, 50, if you did a 75% reduction, that would mean the supervisor's at 1.95%, the attorney at 2.73%. Sorry, go slow down. No, you're okay. Supervisor 1.95, attorney 2.73, auditor 5.23, recorder 5.23, treasurer 5.01, sheriff 9.53. If you did a 50%, it would be 3.89 for the supervisors, 5.46 for the attorney, 10.45 for the auditor and recorder, 10.02 for the treasurer, and 19.07 for the sheriff. And then if you do a 25% reduction, it would be 5.84 for the supervisors, 8.19 for the attorney, 15.68 for the auditor recorder, 15.03 for the treasurer, and 28.6 for the sheriff.
Did you add in, let's see, we had to hire a work clerk.
Vincent.
That's in there. Yep. That's
I do
all.
have a question on that fourth part, you had mentioned that earlier, about you want to offload what we're doing now, kind of the budgetary things. Do we wanna add that to the job description for the clerk? Is that something we want our clerk to be able to do?
To do
I've got a thought on that. Let me throw this out here just for discussion.
Roll it out with here.
What if we did 50% of the comp board and paid Shelley $5,000 a year budget? Just throwing it out there for discussion.
But a lot of counties do that, still they do a lot. So do 50% and give her 5 for doing our budgets.
Which would be outside of that, which would affect your debt.
Cause that would be, basically that would be, we're contracting her as out of our budget.
It's a lot,
To
There's-
pay, I know.
I don't see any way in which if you had an outside budget director, which would
it's way expensive.
Yeah, and they're gonna need to be, cause I thought through, like, if somebody says, well, could they be part-time? Well, no, not really, because part of being the budget director is monitoring everybody's budgets every month and checking the amendments and meeting with employees that are gonna hire somebody new and, but it really is a year-round, like, it's not just a January to March and when we certify we're done. It's all year long, cause you gotta keep up with amendments and all of that stuff, with department heads and kind of overlooking all of that. So it really is a full-time job, at kind of keeping up with all of that. So if you were going to look at hiring a budget director, I would obviously recommend hiring a full-time person to do that, or at least somebody all year long. Like, maybe they don't have to work 8 hours a day all year long, but it would definitely need to be somebody that's here, like they could be part-time, but it needs to be the full year, not just a
So it'd be
I
way
think that's
cheaper
what
to
it
give
is
her
for
a
Dallas
stipend.
County, and I'm talking detail about
Yeah.
it.
Just
So,
pay.
I mean, we can talk about that. I'm not opposed to that necessarily, but my question to you is, is this something you still want to do?
The budget director. If I'm being honest, it's gonna depend on what you do with wages. Like, it really truly is. So, I mean, if you're gonna cut me down to 25%, of my comp board recommendation, somebody else can have it.
So, it's not uncommon for other counties to have a stipend. But, what is uncommon is the wage proposals by the compensation board. So I think we need to figure out a way that is service of the public needs or budgets, and is fair to the county employees and the taxpayers regarding wages. So, if we do, we could always do, we're gonna hire a board clerk anyway, we could always do a full-time board clerk / budget director.
No,
The qualifications for that are so.
so different, and I'm not for that. We just blew it by not being able to get along, so we lost the board clerk that was free.
But here's the thing though, is that there are people that do that. For instance, there is a clerk in another county that works for a city that is located where in Ohio.
I'm not
So-
interested in that.
So here's, well, why not?
I think paying Shelley a fair wage to do something that she does every single day, and she keeps track, makes really good sense. Bringing outside people in to do something she does every day seems like insanity to me. Or duplicating a job we already have.
I'm not asking, but the thing is that this is all based on the assumption that the wages are not fair. And I don't think that's the right assumption to make. Do they deserve a raise? Yes, I believe they do. But do they deserve a 20% raise? No, I don't think so. Do they deserve a 15% wage? That's still high. So I think what we need to discuss is, if she's saying that she doesn't wanna do it unless we give her a 15% raise, which is her, her right to do, then that's a completely different discussion. So what I need to know from you guys, do you think that she's not paid fairly? And that's a discussion
I
we're
don't
gonna
believe
talk.
she's paid fair.
I don't either.
Okay,
And
so
that's
you
why
think,
we've stayed with this.
okay, so
We
you
don't
think
think she's
that,
paid fair.
so what do you think would be a fair increase?
That's
Setting
why,
this
that's why
aside,
I threw out the stipend as a discussion point on what we might be able to land at there, so maybe we curtail comp board stuff just a little bit, or pay Shelley something extra for me, or
I'm
whatever.
not.
And we have to understand,
And it,
we don't make product that we can sell and make money. We are only service-based industry. That's all we do.
I know.
And we have to, and people, unfortunately, they don't like paying taxes, but if you don't wanna pay your taxes, then we'll do away with driver's license and they go to Des Moines. We'll do away with passports and we don't have to do those things.
That's true, no.
We do it as a service, so I think we have to weigh, what are we willing to give up? And it's not a lot.
Well, Diane, on the flip side, we also have to be aware of where the money comes from.
They're taxpayers, we're all
We're all
taxpayers.
taxpayers, but we have to make sure that we are not taxing the taxpayers to death. And I have yet, other than a few people, most people were opposed to the compensation board recommendations.
And I've not heard that, but
So most
I
of the
don't
people
wanna
you
get
talked to
rid of
are in favor of the 20% pay increase.
no one has said a word to me. And everybody, when I wrote that article, they have all come up and said, because people that are mad live in the city of Winterset, they pay very little
a lot
county
of
tax.
I disagree
Very
with
little.
that. If you look at that petition,
Yeah.
most of the
that
people on the
petition.
petition were not from the city of Winterset. They were from your district and mine. We add our districts together.
And I looked at my district, and a lot of them don't own land.
They don't
They're
have
not
houses, they don't pay rent.
No, they pay rent, but they don't pay
Where do
property
you think the rent
tax.
comes from? That's,
The landowner pays the taxes, not the,
but they
Right.
pass it on to the renter,
well, maybe,
Diane.
yeah, that's not fair to say they don't pay, because they don't own the property.
If we bring property taxes, you're saying that the landowner is not gonna pass on that increase to their renter?
Let's move on. Let's move on.
well,
Okay, well, we still have to discuss this, so,
I threw out an idea out there,
If you,
and
if a $5,000 stipend or stipend for
I'm
Shelley,
just throwing her out there for discussion. Shelley, is that fair?
and would we, are you looking at that 50% comp recommendation?
I'm just throwing it out there for discussion, it's for,
I think for me, like, I'm a realist, in knowing that I get these are high. Like, I wouldn't be doing my job if I was gonna sit here and tell you 20%, let's give everybody 20%. I'd love to be able to do that, but that's not financially stable to be able to do that.
And
So
we have
when
to
I
live
started,
within our
yes, we
means.
have to live
we do.
within our means, but I also think we need to be looking at what are we doing, like what are county job descriptions, what are all of that to do, and quite frankly, if another elected, Brandy, if you want to do the budget, help yourself. You know, I mean, it's just to that, it's just to that point, it's so much of my time, and I spent 2 days retweaking these numbers, to turn around, I mean, who knows where they'll end up now, but it's such a time commitment to be able to keep up with that, and then to be told, you really, I mean, here's a 3% increase, that's hard to stomach.
Well, and in all reality,
And not that that's what you said, Heather, that wasn't a shot at, but
you
it's
do
just,
help city clerks. You do help every single department head in some way more than others. I know that. Because when I was at Soil and Water, you guys helped us at times. So, I mean, you're there available, and we can make appointments, and you do.
and I know it has been thrown out a number of times in the public meetings as well, but you have lucrative insurance, well, don't say I have lucrative insurance when you don't even know if I take the home insurance. Like, so, and if I'm being honest, I don't.
I know.
So, that's another $25,000 that I'm not getting that everybody else is getting.
Well, we've had this discussion probably since I've been on the board. And Randy's not a day at your office or the treasurer's office, but the responsibilities that you have, I feel oftentimes are far greater than the other two offices because they're lumped together for so darn long, and it's tough to get out of that, cycle. And that appeals to me to the comp board, and it just doesn't, maybe it flies, you give an extra $500 or something. It's not nominal. But if we could pay you a stipend for being your budget director, that kind of removes that a little bit from the compensation.
And
You know why? And that was one thing when I first came on board, because I knew what we did from my previous working with you before I was elected. Why were the three offices so tied so closely? When you clearly do completely different.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, I think it's been like that since.
I think it was because they've always done it that way.
Well,
Here's
and
the thing, you know what I mean?
And it's a
one
terribly
ever brought
sexist philosophy.
It's
It says,
terribly-
well, if we pay one of those ladies different than other ladies, no.
It was a matter of we're all elected officials when that no one really dug into what each
Job
office did.
And
Yeah.
not to throw Paul Walsh under the bus, but he was married to the county auditor for years, but he's one of the biggest advocates keeping all those three
Oh,
offices the
100%.
same.
So
Yeah.
my question to you is, if this was removed off the whole thing, budget, whatever, say we had a huge slew of money come in and we decide to hire someone that's all.
Mhm.
What change would that make to your office? What would you do?
What would I do? I'd be able to keep up on all the real estate stuff and the election stuff that I've been trying to work with Danny on, and there's so much more involved with my job than budgeting. I mean, I have the ag plan, I have all the credits and exemptions that get put on parcels, that all falls from my office. I have all of those. And there's a ton of real estate side to my office that you guys don't even know about. That is just, as I get time, I have to tweak that in because I have state deadlines I have to meet there as well. So it would definitely help with my time to be able to, because there's some of that stuff I can farm out to my staff, but some of it is, I need to be able to do it. So,
But I think you have a good staff in this area.
I do, I have an excellent
You get
staff.
Sarah moving to, once we get a board member hired, she'll be 100% you. You get Danny in the elections office, so I think you've got a staff in place that's gonna be helpful.
So it'll be easier for you. You know, another thing, why we did it the same was we never ever looked at job descriptions. We just treated all elected the same. And I think it was the second year I was there, I questioned that. I never want to hurt anybody's feelings, but the job descriptions, if you were in public sector, are not the same.
I know they're not.
And it really is not fair, and I have nothing against the treasurer, but she's new. And I think we really have to look at that, new versus been here a long time.
Well, and I struggle with, well, the private sector isn't getting 6% raises, the private sector
some
isn't
are.
getting, but the private sector, I'm gonna make a heck of a lot more money in the private sector to begin with.
I'm-
So a 6% raise for them is a heck of a lot more than a 6%
I
raise for
mentioned
me.
this in our last budget, ADP reports that the average person stayed in the same on their job from a year ago to now in the state of Iowa is at 7% raise. If you change jobs, you have 14% raise.
Well, I have a grandson that makes more working at Culver's than we pay healthcare nurses. That's terrible.
Yeah, I just think if we're gonna look at it, if you're gonna look at it and say, here's what they're doing in the private sector, then we should be paying what the private sector is making.
And even state offices, just to throw it out there. So we work with, you know, the Department of Public Health, the DNR, and the Department of Revenue. Here recently, the Department of Public Health was hiring for someone to be the agent for county reporters. And their pay was pretty enticing, and I already knew the job. So obviously I love my job. I'm here in town, my kids are here. It's gonna take a lot for me to go, but
a state job.
it was at this Department of Public Health. And I would already been trained for it.
And you know what's gonna happen? The state has people that, because when I left, they took a huge hit. Now they're gonna get another huge hit, so I think that's gonna take these people away, just like,
They're gonna be laying people off if the governor signs this consolidation bill, it's on her desk, they're gonna be laying people off, Diane.
Public health
we'll see how good
I
that
don't know
works
about
for
public
them.
health.
And Randy, just
That's in
to your
certain
point,
places, yeah.
you're in the community business.
I am.
Somebody that's 90
And
miles away
it
from
would
one
reduce
company.
my workload, because then I'd only be doing vitals rather than DNR, recording all the other things. I'd only have one focus rather than 4 or 5.
So I sent you guys a chart that I created, because I contacted, all the counties that surround us, with the exception of one, they haven't gotten theirs back to me, but I think they're waiting, because they think they're having, they're hearing today, they have some hearing today. With the exception of Warren, so all the 6 counties around us, the 6 counties that are the same size as us, and then the 3 additional counties that, the compensation board, and these increases that we're recommending are so outside the norm of those other counties. Like way outside the norm. And that's concerning to me. So how are we gonna justify to our taxpayers? We do not have a tax base for a lot of these bigger counties. We just don't. We don't have any money. And how are we gonna justify to our taxpayers these level increases?
We haven't made any decisions.
But
We're
that's
close
what
to-
we're talking about, we're close to making decisions on here. So how do we justify that? That's my question. We don't have the same tax base as Dallas, we don't have the same tax base as Warren and Polk. And Polk didn't do these kind of increases. Granted, they do pay more money.
They're hard, they're
But
Yeah.
they have a much bigger, their budget, their tax base is 30 times our size. And they have a casino. Not that I advocate for a casino for our county.
that was floated out once in the
Do it.
But we have to keep in mind that we have to live within our means, which means we have to live within our taxpayers' means. That's our means, is our tax base.
Well, it's balancing act there a little bit.
So,
You got what you need to keep your employment base there and keep your staff employed at a rate that's comparable to what they could get elsewhere. And you have to understand where you're at on taxes. So it's a balancing act. Does that mean maybe you have to pay a little bit more to have the services that you need? Yes. Do you need commercial growth? Absolutely. So maybe we shouldn't fight commercial growth at every chance that
No kidding, get commercial growth in here.
and that's
you're right, trying
challenging.
commercial growth, that doesn't mean turbines. I'm all for commercial growth, but not limited.
That ship is already sailed.
Yeah. So I'm all for commercial growth, and I don't disagree, and we're growing, which is a good thing.
And we will get commercial growth whether you like it or not. That northeast part of the county is set to explode.
Then
Unfortunately, when it does, it'll probably be in West Des Moines,
It will,
which means you'll get some of it. You'll get the general basic,
They'll get the
general
majority.
supplemental, but you won't get any rural. But then you drive around and you see things going up in rural areas that you know aren't incorporated. They're like say a warehouse facility, man. You're gonna see one
You are seeing them all?
well, it's just across in Warren County and
Yeah, it's like the new Hy-Vee warehouse or
Yes.
something like that.
That's not in. Maybe it isn't coming. Well, that's a huge boost for the
It's-
city coming.
Yeah, it's huge. And it's,
All on ag ground.
I get that, but.
I know,
what kind of
I know,
taxes
but
is
it'll
that
be
at
the
the
tax
beginning?
base, I know.
At a 90% rollback versus a 50% rollback. You know, so it doesn't, and housing growth is one thing, and it does add to your tax base, but when you get the rollback, and two, it requires services. The more people we have, the harder it is on your roads, the more likely they are to need an ambulance, sheriff, whatever it might be. So residential growth is probably a zero-sum game, it pretty much stays even.
We've grown, according to the census, was 5.5%,
I read.
which is better than a lot of our.
Better than a lot.
So, and if you look at the census, they're estimating just the last 2 years, we've grown a little bit more. So that's a good trend line. But we have to budget for what we have today. And what we have today, I don't think we can support this. I mean, the original, if you just look at, and thank you for doing the FICA and the anchors and stuff, that was hot. The full board recommendation was a little over 278K increase to the budget if you take their full recommendation. If we take their 50% recommendation, that's a almost $139,000 increase, so a 10% increase to the budget. So, can our taxpayers afford that?
Like I said, it's kind of a balance.
But
You have-
can our
you have to
taxpayers
keep-
afford that is the question.
I think how contentious this has gotten and how wages have been the only thing presented as raising taxes is, and it's not, we've already spent 50,000 on rock, but if we do that, you wanna risk, I think we could lose a lot of staff in there.
Okay, so my question to you is, there's a lot of assumptions going on. I'm not saying that all of them are incorrect, but we have to work with what we have. And these are all elected officials, okay, and their staff. So elected officials run for office. So I knew what my salary was gonna be when I ran for office. Okay, I knew what I would have to do to supplement that salary if I chose to run for office. So when people run for office, they do it because they want to serve and they understand, the workers work for wages. So all these folks ran for office. So we're not talking about regular staff now, we're just talking about elected officials.
That's not true.
Yeah,
because
that's
it
not
trickles
really
down to
true.
all your deputies.
It trickles down, yes, but all these folks ran for office knowing this wage. So my
Because they have
question,
the heart to serve, but
Right.
if they don't pay them, I think their heart's gonna get pretty hard in their office.
we are, but Diana, you make it sound like we don't pay them anything, and we pay them stuff. I mean, they make, I think, a fair wage for the jobs that they have, except maybe Shelley.
Since I
So-
started here, this has gotten to be absolutely toxic. This is a toxic, miserable work environment.
Okay, so,
Just walk into their offices and they're told, I want this paper by the end of the day. You work for me. And that's what this has gotten to be. This has gotten so
I don't
toxic.
think, that is not a fair representation of most of the people in this county.
And it doesn't take a lot, it just a few hurt a lot.
It has gotten much worse over time.
And
The
someone
first 2
who's,
years that I was on this board,
I
it
know
was a
that.
relatively pleasant experience. The last 6 years have been miserable.
so I don't know why that is, for the last 6 years, I haven't been here that long.
I think it's
But
best to.
All I can say is that we are responsible as supervisors to make sure that we balance, make sure our employees get paid fairly and they get fair benefits, and that at the same time, we make sure the taxpayers are not overtaxed. And I would probably say most of the taxpayers in this county think they're overtaxed. So-
They should look at where their taxes are going to, because it's a pretty small percentage that's going to Madison County. You usually write the check to Madison County.
A very small, I broke that out as clear as I could, it's such a small amount.
78% of the revenues that pay for the county government come from rural residents.
We know.
So I am personally concerned about a belief system that our county workers are not treated well by our residents. Do I think there's bad eggs? Yes. But that's true in the private sector too. I got yelled at all the time in the private sector, as did my coworkers. There's always people that are having a bad day. Is that right? No, it's not right. But that should not be a justification for us taxing the residents more. That's not right.
Well, there's a lot of moving pieces of this, especially moving forward. There's bills in place on what a comp board will be there next year.
Right.
Will they gut back the blue? Probably not. So next year,
Will they
will the
cap,
sheriff get what was recommended from the comp board? Well, more than likely, we may not have any choice in that. And who knows how that works? And who
Will
knows
they
what
cap
our budget
property?
restrictions are
Will they
next
cap
year. I guess I'm gonna kind of stand by what I mentioned with the 50% recommendation and pay Shelley $5,000 as our budget director.
so you're 50% of comp board recommendation.
And paying Shelley an extra $5,000 there for the budget director.
Can we look at the treasurer and lower that to maybe 75%?
You
You
can.
can't sing for,
Then we have to do not
What I would like, is to, the 75% reduction would give Shelley a $8,000
You can vote for it, you know,
for that. Yeah,
you vote for the budget.
You'll vote for the budget?
I'll vote for this, it doesn't mean I'll vote for the entire
So
budget.
you're
Well,
gonna
then
vote
there's
for
no
it.
point.
You're not gonna vote for it. no
You're
matter
not
what.
gonna vote for whatever we say, because you aren't gonna vote for it. You just said that.
So I said I would vote for this.
Yeah, but
in
you're
this
gonna
way.
vote for
Well,
the
then, if
budget.
you don't vote for the budget,
You can't separate it, it's all one budget. You're gonna say, I'll vote for the budget, but not that. That isn't good.
All right, fine. I give you what I suggested, so. Here's what you want.
all right, well, Dan, what do you think about that?
I did call legal. I know Shelley said this would be hard, but if this is hard for people to bite off, we can give you, your raises in quarters. We could do that. We could go 25%. We could do that in quarters, so it doesn't push everybody up in the higher tax bracket. It isn't one big chunk of time.
I don't understand.
You essentially would graduate the
Graduate
raise.
raise.
So kicks in at the end of the year, you're up to full.
Okay, so like say, you get a 2% raise the first quarter, you get a 6% raise the second quarter, you get.
So at Christmas you get a raise, and so it graduates.
How do
You
we,
can do it.
You can, but I don't think that's.
cause
You can do it.
We,
I think it might be a nightmare though.
I don't know.
Is it a nightmare?
yes.
Then you're doing the stuff that's a nightmare once a year.
Then we'll have to pay Shelley
You're doing it
even
four
more
times.
money.
You're doing it 4 times a year.
But you
Yes.
can do it. So they said it's just so out of the box, but you can.
I don't.
Legally,
You
feasibly.
Okay. I would go for, probably 50% with a stipend. I think that's an $8,000 raise for you, Shelley, 85, and then with a stipend.
And that's not gonna move the fund balance needle anything.
It didn't show on
It
mine.
moved the.
So it's not in here, but you basically be the 50% comp board recommendation plus an extra $5,000.
Sure, yeah.
Now, that's
That's not gonna move the needle on any of that.
that wasn't too far from Clark, was it? Clark and Warren, I think close to this.
Warren didn't give me theirs.
I mean, Clark and Union were close. But you know what happens, you don't pay, they can't get anybody. They're starting to share everything they can. Attorneys,
They're also not blowing either.
well, they have a lot of industry in Clark.
But
Um,
I think they're stagnant.
I don't wanna.
They have a lot of industry, they got a casino down there.
They do.
Actually, it's a-
They're very hard.
So now what was your recommendation, same as Bill, or would you?
I'm the same with the 50%. I wish we could get away, I think they'll do away with Concord. but, because
That seems to be the.
it hamstrings
Use it
us,
every year.
it does, and it hamstrings
And
us to be.
these last 2 years have probably been the absolute worst
Yeah.
because of what's going on with the back of blue.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think they did not think that through.
Well, I think it's typical, it's typical state. They think of something, not how it rolls downhill.
Well, but I also think it keeps from having, it keeps it from being political. I mean, you get 3 Republican supervisors in here and you get a Democratic auditor and you're like, you giving her nothing. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, I
no,
agree.
but
I agree.
there are
Really?
people that
There's,
would.
there's,
Like,
there's a
yes.
reason why count boards were implemented.
Yes,
And
yes,
that reason
You
probably
can't
still
play-
stands today.
yeah.
I didn't know you were there.
I'm not. It was an example. It was an example.
Don't
I'm
start
not.
rumor, Ryan.
But some people are very passionate about
Yes,
their
they are.
political party, and they
It's
will
the
not
same people
agree
that
with
will
the
get
other
into
party.
office and get rid of everybody that's not their same political party. Like, it happens. It happened in Dallas County. Like, that's a thing. And so then you put it. I think it puts a lot of pressure on you guys. I mean, this is bad enough, but you.
Not only does it put a lot of pressure, it puts maybe more power than I feel I want to have.
Like, more power than you want to have?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because two people could make decisions that affect absolutely everything.
That's true now. So they would, what I liked was, I don't think this is the one that came from committee, but I liked the one where they gave, the recommendations, and we were allowed to subgroup them,
To
right?
do whatever
That's
you
what I
wanted.
want to, I've always
That's what I
wanted.
liked, is for that one, rather than, you know, yes or no, dissolve it or not dissolve it. I liked having to where we can say, you know, Shelley does deserve a higher increase because of what she's doing, but in order to do that, I have to give it, you know. And so that is, there's some negatives, cons to the compensation rule too.
Well, and that the blue has pushed every board of supervisors into it. They legislated something we shall do without giving us any funding.
Well, it was the shall do for the compensation board. So it wasn't a shall for the supervisors, because if you look at those
No,
percentages,
for
they,
I mean, for the back of the blue shell.
for the compensation
Yeah.
board
Oh.
to use, but we
Yeah.
can still lower it.
True, but because of that sheriff's salary, you
Yes.
saw other stuff kind of get a
Right.
little
Yeah.
bit higher than they would have been otherwise.
So, I mean, those percentages for those other counties, if you look at them, they're, especially the ones that are the same size, you know they're not taking the compensation board's
But then there's
down
some,
percentages.
there's counties that did the back of blue a year, also down.
Yeah, and
now
that's
they're
what I
saying
was gonna
more.
say, is
Yeah,
some of
they
those
did.
counties, they only had to do, the comp board only had to recommend a 15% increase for their sheriff to get them where they needed to be, whereas we were so far behind. We needed a 38% increase recommended by the comp board to get him where he needed to be, to abide by the law. And so I think that's where we saw those gaps kind of close, because you had 15% for the sheriff, and you might have 7 or 8 for all the other offices. Well, where we had to be at 38, that's where you saw those rates. So.
Okay, well, with those changes made, the fund balance won't hardly any different. I mean,
No, like with the, yeah,
It'll be the 50, it'll be the 50%.
It'd be pretty
Yeah,
much that.
and then plus the 5, yeah.
So it's gonna land us in somewhere over 18%.
So the other question I have for you both is, what about those department heads that ask for more, rather than the 6%, I think one was like 11%, one was 14%. Do you wanna do straight 6% for all the employees, or do you wanna have them have, because one of them has not even been here a year yet. And which I've not heard of that, and then it's not gonna bring their work. The work is fabulous, but, you know, I'm not comfortable having someone only here a year and giving them a higher raise. And as for, and for the other one, I'm not sure how you wanna discuss that. But do we wanna have everybody the same at 6%, or do we wanna have those two outliers?
I would go the other groups.
I think so, we could hit some of those kind of budget conversations.
So a 14% increase for someone that hasn't been here a year.
No. You just said,
14% pay increase for someone who hasn't been here a year yet.
No,
So you want a 6%?
or less.
Okay, so you're saying you don't want the direct outliers?
No. I want
So
less
everyone
for
is-
the one, way less,
Okay,
the ones that
so,
won't even hear me,
okay,
or less.
so is that something we need to talk about?
Yeah.
Separately? Cause there's one that was, 14% was what we requested, and the other one was, it worked out because of 11%. Was what we voted on.
The one that you're talking about, 11, we curtailed that.
Okay, so is that the state 11, or are we curtailing that to 6?
Maybe somewhere between.
I feel six.
So those are the only other questions on that.
I think that job has had a lot of extra responsibility in the last couple of years. It's HR.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, go with, well, yeah,
We-
that's been
We talked
terrible.
about, she and I met, we came in at 75, you guys dialed it back to 68.5.
I thought we did 70.
I thought it was 70, we down to 68.5. That's what my notes say.
Oh,
I
remember
No, you're right. You came in at 75. We talked about 70. I crossed that out and it was 68,000.
Okay, then it's not.
Let's keep it,
I have my notes at 72, so I'm assuming it's.
her job's
So, and we're talking about zoning and what you might want to do there.
what did we, I can't remember.
We didn't really,
What is in the budget for zoning? Did we put the request for amount, shall we?
I think we dialed it back when we,
I think the proposal was 91,200, 60% of it would be 81,800. I would say where we landed on.
I forget where, there's Tina in there as well.
Mine on my tape on my desk.
Yeah, we just have the 6% in there now.
Okay,
Alright,
Other tests in there too.
is that 6% or is that higher? For HR?
For HR,
7. What did we do for, like Josh Johnston, those,
that's
they're,
about 7.6 based on my math.
thank you.
what about,
So it's-
I was
what
getting
did
there, I
we,
could
what
remember.
did we do for like, Josh Johnston and those guys, they're way low if you compare them.
6% from my meeting.
So if you compare them, like Galloway said, to other counties close by, they're very low.
You can't bite off everything at
I know,
once.
I know,
Well, our engineers pay kind of low too.
he's very low.
Can't,
And we lost an assistant who was gonna come.
oh, you guys,
We had somebody that was gonna.
We had an apprentice, or what do you call him, intern, it was amazing.
So is the engineer something that needs to be adjusted then? I mean, there's secondary roads budget, so not a tax levy budget, but I mean, that might be,
He never complains, but I know that they work,
Looking across all the counties, he's on the.
he's so
we made a
amazing.
significant adjustment.
He's really-
I'd never looked up stuff.
right,
Well,
yeah.
here's the thing, Warren County just lost their contract,
I know, he asked me for a reference.
so,
You can't hire engineers, you don't graduate.
so Shelley, you said that comes out of, that's not the tax.
Yeah, so that's a secondary road fund,
And he
Yeah.
won't,
Do you think we can afford that?
oh, I think so, I'd secondary road fund is healthy.
well,
It's
they're
very
so
healthy.
frugal. And do
So-
you know that Josh Johnston, he plowed snow on that big snow all weekend. He's a
I don't have no secondary road, that must have been the big expense.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Had it, let's see. Secondary run fund is sitting at $5 million.
So if we take the average of all the counties I looked at, it's $133,000.
And what's he make now?
125, 7 point.
So, what if we give him 6%?
Well, we have this.
So let's give him, what if we give him 8?
Um, Keep in mind, these numbers are this year's numbers, so this is not this is the wage growth they did.
Catch up.
Correct.
And if he leaves, I don't think we'll ever get one, because some counties share, and that would be terrible.
We're already down on system two.
We already are.
We're at
So
what,
with
a year
six-
now that we've had it
Yeah.
posted?
With a 6%, that gets us to the average of 133, Diane, so I think we should.
Didn't someone not take a job because of
Yes.
all the nastiness?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So, so I think, let me see what I talked about. Cause this is 135, right?
Bring it down.
I didn't hear that.
Out of the two.
Okay. Change section.
Isn't that what I said?
So then what would your number be for the assistant engineer that he's trying to hire for? Are you guys gonna adjust that? Because no one's been
But
able,
that's gotta be, I
It's
think,
in the 75.
is that a percentage? I don't, yeah. I don't
we're
know
gonna have
if
to
you guys
figure out,
wanna
what
look
if
at
they're
that.
brand new out of college, and because see.
Well, it
then
doesn't matter if they're brand new or old, we haven't gotten any applications,
know.
So
so.
I think what we should do is.
Because they have to work under his license for, I think, a
Well,
year.
unless they're B, which you're not gonna find.
No,
So
you're
you're
not.
Not for 75,000,
Do you
you know,
remember
I'm
what
sorry.
the salary is for this assistant?
I think it's up to like 95.
75 to 95.
Yeah, 75 to 95 was the range.
Do we wanna do a percent increase on that?
To see if you can get anybody.
I don't know if it's gonna help, but yeah, I mean, it's just, that's just that world right now. I mean, you go to their conferences and everyone's struggling, they just lost an amazing engineer over there to private, so.
To Indianola, I know.
They're,
Indianola
yeah, and
Boston.
he was,
So let's go 8% and see if we can get anybody. Are you guys okay with that?
I'm fine with that, when I did the comparables, and I heard about Orange County, that didn't increase, so.
That would put the minimum to, the top area to 102.6, which is 6 figures. That's,
what, sorry.
that's an 8% bump on 95,000 to 102,000.
Do you think,
You can, you can offer somebody
Yeah,
6 figures.
I'll let Mike know to give you a call after this, just to kind of relay that to him, but yeah, just kind of get an idea.
now
So-
Mike, his in between guys, oh yeah, they got 6%, okay.
So I think we're done. Shelley, you can tweak the numbers, it shouldn't take too long, we're not gonna see any noteworthy changes in fund balances, I don't believe. It's barely 50%.
And what's his?
Did we talk about year dates? I think we did that a week ago.
So here's what I wanted to ask you guys. I forgot I'm actually gone on the 10th.
Okay.
So you can either one, do it without me,
No.
or
No.
not an option. I've never felt so needed in my life. Or two, what are your thoughts on? I'm gonna hate cities. Doing it on Tuesday morning.
Next Tuesday?
Why, we used to do it on in the evenings to allow for the public. Nobody shows up. It will be the same group of people sitting right here with a few extras, so,
Is,
I mean.
do you have to do it, do you have to approve the budget the day after the hearing? When you do the budget hearing,
No,
April 17th?
you can
You can do it the same time.
You do it the 20th, yeah, do it on the 25th.
Yeah, because.
I don't know if this environment, that would be good, I think we should still do it.
Okay.
I
Um,
I don't disagree with the other.
And that's
So,
fine, I just
a
wanted to
different
throw it out
evening?
there. If we're,
we can do a different meeting,
yeah, that's, okay,
April 17th work?
yeah,
Is
that's.
that cutting it too close?
No, gosh, no, that's fine.
So you want Tuesday, April 17th.
Monday.
Monday
Monday, April 17th,
in the
Here.
evening, yeah, we'll do it here,
annex at 6 o'clock.
yep. And then you'll do a meeting the next day on the 18th.
Or the 25th. Where's the plan?
Let's do,
Oh,
yeah,
Please,
Or-
so we'll go
Or
April
could we do it
25.
at the 20, do it at our regular 24 meeting?
so you wanna do the hearing on the 17th and then not approve it
Any
until the
reason,
25th?
any reason we can't?
So let's just,
Otherwise, do you wanna do the hearing on the 24th and approve it on the 25th? Sure.
that would be too.
And that's still okay, that would be okay.
Gotta be done by that.
Yep, gotta be done by April 30th, so I just gotta hit certified.
That works.
Okay,
Great.
So when's the 24th? So
so Monday.
Monday, okay, so we'll do Monday the 24th.
Oh, wait, I can't do Monday the 24th.
at 6? It's in the evening.
Because it's the only date that the comprehensive planning committee can meet with the consultant. We went through 7 different dates.
Is that here, where's that at? Is it here? What time?
That's 6:30.
So let's go back to Tuesday.
Let's go back to Monday the
Or
17th.
Monday the 17th.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay.
Monday the
And
17th.
then the only question is, do you want to have a special meeting on the 8th to prove that? We just decided we're gonna have,
I was gonna say, if you're gonna
Construction
have a construction meeting
Yeah.
anyways, can you just do a regular meeting?
Yeah.
And approve the budget
that
and
way
do
you
your
can
study
do
for your work
do whatever
session?
you need to do sooner rather than later.
Okay, let's do that. So 17th hearing, 18th, we'll do a regular meeting instead of just a work session. and you
Okay,
will
I'm
approve the
mixed up.
budget.
Monday
Shocker.
the 17th, Monday the 17th, April the 17th, we're doing a budget hearing.
Yes, here, 6 P.M.
Yes, got it. And then April 25th, we'll have the regular,
People,
We changed that to the
April
we're gonna have a
18th.
special
18th.
meeting
Yeah.
and you'll have the special meeting.
at 9:30, followed by construction meeting at 10.
Oh, sure, yeah. You want us two separate then?
Special
Okay.
meeting at what time?
9:30?
9:30, and then a construction meeting
At
at
10.
10.
Okay.
Oh. No, no.
Or you do it on the 10th,
No,
no.
don't even utter that out of your mouth.
Hey, one year I made Aaron Price do it, so he's not
How well did
really-
that go?
It went fine, but he's not thrilled.
You can.
I forgot about that.
We'll
It's
work
not my
on it.
budget, it's yours.
No, we'll work around.
Okay,
Alright,
alright.
here we are.
Yeah,
Anything
okay,
else
I'll go
this
back
meeting?
and work on numbers.
Just
we'll have-
share that with us when you get it done, but next time.
Yeah, and then I will have a resolution also on Tuesdays to set a hearing date for an amendment. Cause we, historic preservation needs to spend $75,000 by the end of April and they need to amend for that. They have the revenue brought in already, so it'll be, but
Let them spend it, that's
I
what
need
it's there
to-
for.
And what you do is you match up a bill and they pay the bill,
Yeah.
don't they, for the courthouse.
So we also need to, since you're here, is get something on the agenda for next week for setting a hearing for the ordinance. And the zoning just approved. So I don't know how we wanna do that. Do we wanna set it for the following meeting then, April
Was it
11th?
Ryan, the resolution for us, if you,
I'm assuming he does, I don't know if he knows.
Yeah, he does.
Ryan does.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
but we should put it on the agenda for next week, so
Right.
set a hearing.
Okay.
Ryan will do that.
Okay.
Perfect. And we finished the Natura stuff yesterday.
yes,
Okay.
we finished that contract. I got it sent back to Dana. We put in there to start April 1st.
Yeah.
They had July 1st and we're like, well, who's gonna do it between now and then?
Okay.
So we put April 1st and we said we would give them a $5,000 startup, just because the budget can handle that. So we'll do a $5,000 startup and then as they
And then
need
it's a
more.
fund complete, we
Yep.
got
And
money.
if they don't use it, it falls back if they use it.
Yeah.
Great,
Yeah.
good, thanks for doing that. Another question is the LEA reports. No one seems to wanna be able to do those.
Yeah, I was reading that.
So,
How much money do we get? Most of the people that study it.
this is a state requirement
we have to do the reporting, or
If
just?
we want reimbursement for the cost, yeah.
If you spend $5,000, you get $6,000.
Or do you?
Well, I think it's a lot more than that.
Well, all
This is
this
like
because it's gonna
over
higher
10
percentage.
Over 10 grand.
That percentage is gonna start increasing the less services.
Well, no, it's not just the line, it's the office space, it's a percentage of the building, it's all our support people, like Chip's salary, part of her salary, she does her paperwork. So it's a big, huge number based on the past results. I know, it's double, I don't know, it's, but we have to do it on this day.
We need to do stuff.
I mean, theoretically, I think it'd be best if public health did, but Sean already said that she doesn't have time to do it.
Well, why doesn't Sean do it?
It's once a quarter.
Well, why doesn't Sean do it?
Well, we have to go to his board and ask them to do it.
I think that might be the thing we should do. We'll have his, have him.
I can talk to Dr. Duane and.
That makes the most sense to send it out there and have them.
Because
Kelly,
it's
can you
used
report
by
to us
social
at our next
work.
meeting, how much it costs to do that report, and how much we get?
Yeah, so the cost allocation for DHS weekly cost advisory services, $4,125 to put that report together, the DHS piece. But I don't know, I think it'll hopefully get in for.
It all depends on what that report says. You know, that percent's probably gonna decrease or less.
Because they combine them.
Shirley, I have the old reports that Christie submitted.
Okay.
Do you want to sit down with me and look at them so we can figure, because
Sure.
to your point, Phil, if it's not cost effective, it might be just cheaper for us just to pay for it, rather than do all this.
I know, it's kind of like,
But if we're making money on it,
I bet we're not, I don't know.
so, but I don't know how, it could be something that's just what we've always done, you know.
I think that that positive is there, but it's just ridiculous to pay $4,000 for $10,000.
Well, that's, yeah, but I would.
It's still $6,000 budget.
I
But you had to
would-
pay $4,000.
But I don't know, I don't understand
If we're
it
paying
enough.
$4,000 to get up 500, I don't know.
No, but I need to understand it a little bit better, and I don't, and Shelley has more information on the budget than I do.
Let's look at it, if it's okay, let's look at it, and then if it's something doable, I think Sean should do this. He needs to do some of this reporting.
I have no problem with that, we just have to get the Board of Health sign off on it.
Well, you know,
Yeah, he reports to them, I mean, we can't tell them.
and I know, and nothing's clean.
Push on another shove.
True, but the other flip side, if he's doing it, we could probably fold in some of his budget costs too, as a cost that gets reimbursed by the state, so, but I don't know, we'll have to sit down and, so we'll pick Shelley's brain on that.
Okay,
You
very
bring
good
this
little
back.
direction, I agree.
So it's not due though until the end of April, Shelley, is my understanding, so we
Okay.
have some time.
Okay.
So
Better
whenever,
get to this, John.
if you wanna, figure out what works for you,
Okay.
we can sit down and look at it,
All right,
and figure out what works for us.
if there's nothing else, I'd ask the motion to adjourn.
So,
Motion from Diane, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Heather, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye, pose same sign, motion carried. All right, thank you, everybody. Let's hope this cycle is, wow. It might be quicker next year, but I don't think it's gonna be easier next year.
it'll be quicker, because we'll have a quicker deadline.
Look, we're not gonna have
I should
anything.
have drawn this out, you know, as fast as Dirk needs to.
And go back and listen to a list run outside.
Hey, that's good.
At least it's getting
I
done.
know, I wanna complain,
But, I mean, there's movement, so.
Don't
complain. Alright, I'm going to show this happening.
Okay.
Cause I have this computer glitch in my head. I do, I just can't get it.
At least you're honest.
Control up, please.
I